Congratulations, welcome to Comic-Con. Well, first of all, we'll have to ask the Comic-Con general question. How is your Comic-Con thus so far?
This is my first Comic-Con.
His
right?
second day.
My second day. So it was, I actually said to people before I got here, I said, my imagination, I feel like it's going to be the running of the bulls, except where everyone is a bull. And they're like, that's 100% accurate. Like it's not, but the bulls are wearing tutus and, you know. So
Princess Leia bikinis.
Princess Leia bikinis. But yeah, and it's been great. It's been cool. I'm a fan of a lot of the writers that are here myself, and so I'm like kind of get to be both the author and the fan geek as well.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
And your Comic-Con so far?
Well, I've been coming to Comic-Con since you could easily walk through the aisles, since the 90s, early 90s. And it's been incredible. Besides meeting all the great people that we've met and making all the wonderful connections that we've made, we did a collaboration with Des Taylor. And so he's here. I manage him as well for film and TV. Mm-hmm. And so he did some key art for that goes with the release of Volume 2 of Edward's Battle for Forever series. And that just dropped today, so it's just nice to see Des. He's in London most of the time when he's not, traveling the world. So it's been a really fortuitous.
And you get to meet some of the people that you either talk to or communicate, online with. And I'm a screenwriter first. That was my. In the 90s and in 2000s, I was a screenwriter first, and so my audience is really a studio executive. But in this world, as an author or people creating comic books or anything like that, the audience, you're right there. It's different. It's the whole audience. It's a completely different.
You get immediate feedback.
You get immediate feedback rather than you're talking to a studio executive who then, their responsibility is something else. So it's a different experience. So it's very cool.
Well, we're here to talk about what was it? Your book,
yes.
Alexander X.
That's correct.
Is it not 10, but X, right?
Alexander X.
Well, also 10.
Well, he's the 10th of his name, but he prefers to be Alexander X because just like Malcolm X, because he doesn't really have a last name.
Oh, excellent. So why do you suppose Comic-Con is a perfect avenue to introduce this book?
Well, first of all,
Sci-fi fans,
and also because the audiobook is being narrated by both audiobooks, the first and the second, are narrated by Wil Wheaton. This is kind of like a great place to talk about that as well. A lot of fans here.
A lot of authors here who and people who attend the con who have listened to other books that were narrated by Wil Wheaton that are in the same world, and John Scalzi, and people that get the sci-fi universe, time travel universe, mundane, earthly, bound science fiction kind of stories. So when the second book, the pre-order link for the second book went up yesterday, we actually found out from fans giving up, saying it's up. We had found out from them before we knew that the link was up.
Before we knew. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
So it's good to have an army of people telling you what's going on.
Oh, that is that's very interesting. I mean, this is one of the largest conventions,
of any kind.
Of any
kind in the world. So how have you been connecting with the fans?
It's funny. It's been one of those things where a lot of people are like, "Are you going? Are you going to be here? What are you doing?" There was a lot of, on Twitter, and especially for me, Twitter. For Lisa, a little more on our Battle for Forever Instagram. It was more Instagram, but people are like, "Oh, I'm jealous." And then the other thing is that we're getting to talk to fans that are here, but there's other fans that aren't here. They're like, "Are you coming to Dragon Con?
Are you coming to WonderCon?
Are you coming to this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think about it, but that might be a great idea." They're like, "Oh, we have a whole group that dresses up. There's 30 people. We'll come and follow you around." And I'm like, "All right, okay. I want to have a posse."
And we've got people that want to cosplay as Eternals,
yes,
and tattoo other Paracletes at the different cons. So it's kind of growing.
How are the fan reactions? Are there any interesting incidents
Mostly right now, because the book is so new. It just dropped
A month and a half ago.
In terms of
Wow.
for the first book. Normally we wouldn't have these books done so close together, but just because of timing and technical, they're coming at the same time. So a lot of people here, we're just starting to make our mark with the people that are here. We've talked to people, we've seen a few people, we've had interactions. A lot of funny stuff online though, right now. I mean, a lot of great stuff where people will ask questions or want to know more about the science. You always have the people that are like, well, if this happened, wouldn't this, and this? And then I have to go through and go, well, I thought about that.
Or the reviews where they're annoyed, but they're so engaged in the world, in their annoyance. Well, if I was, and the fact that they get engaged like that tells you everything. You have to love something to hate something, right?
That's right.
So that's been really cool. And also, we've had a lot of people that have given us the feedback that, with how long is the first audiobook to listen to?
10 hours and 42 minutes.
So that's a long ride. And we've heard people saying that they, you can switch to your phone, obviously. You can whisper sync and go into other devices. But we've had people say that they extended a road trip so they could keep listening because they had their teenagers trapped in the car with them. And we found that the older fans really like the audiobook, and the younger fans really appreciate not just the paperback, but the Kindle that has Easter eggs in the X-ray terms. So the kids like that. And those Easter eggs can be updated indefinitely for people who have a Kindle. So that's very exciting because we're going to be able to drop all kinds of different pieces of information and insight into the world, because the first book is a first-person narrative read by Wil Wheaton, but also from that one Alexander's point of view.
Yeah.
And very much like Iron Man introduces you to a larger universe of characters, Alexander is going to do that as well. But in the first book, we're only following him. So if he's not there, you don't know about it. So at the very beginning of the book, I don't think this is going to be any kind of spoiler alert, but there's a homecoming dance that doesn't get attended. But if you click in the X-ray terms, I don't even know if I've said this to someone else, and you click on homecoming dance, you'll get a description of what happened at the homecoming dance that they never make it to from another character's point of view. So we love the whole transmedia aspect of this, and we get a lot of feedback from fans that come to us with the word transmedia, like, oh, are you going to do more? Are you going to do tabletop? Are you going to do, what are you going to do? So as we slowly unfold, working with really great producing partners, we'll be able to deliver a lot of extra content to the fans. Side stories, the standalone side stories, novellas, all kinds of really great Battle for Forever or BFF Nexus pieces of the puzzle.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and she gets to say it, but I have to create it, so it's always fun. When I listen to her, I go, I'm always like, I have this little meter running in my head going, how many hours is that? Okay.
I promise a lot of crazy things. So on the website, which is just battleforforever.com, he had put burn pages, so some pages that he had in the book that didn't make it, right? And I said, oh, it's going to be great. You're going to click a button and you can set the paper on fire. And he's like, you can?
I'm like, you're not gonna set the paper on fire. She's telling everybody. Yeah, I'm like, no. So
that's the difference between the product and the pitch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there is always a plan. But before I delve into, of course, we have to talk a little bit about Alexander X and so on. I've seen the book trailer.
Yay.
I guess.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I loved it, but for our readers and fans who are watching this video, we should give a little bit of synopsis what Alexander X is all about.
So, what? Yeah, no. So basically, Alexander. It starts out, and we're following in the beginning, this junior in high school. And we don't spend a lot of time in high school in the book, but we spend this first part of the book in there. And Alexander seems to be a little too good at a few too many things. And we learn very quickly that he's not exactly who he says he is. He's not 15 or 17. He's actually 1,500 years old. And
he's one of only 1,000 people.
Maybe only about 300 or 400 adults that age one day for every 100 days. And he's not immortal. He could die, but he just ages more slowly. And so we get to see life through this person who doesn't technically time travel, but we can go back in time 100 years, 200 years. He can tell a story for us and look pretty much the same as he does now because he was there. He can remember things. And what's also interesting is, so that's part of it. That's interesting. The second part is, well, what about the people that are like 4,000 years old or 4,500 years old?
Or 8,000 years old.
Right, who have been some of the greatest warriors, kings, queens of all time. And what if they've been sitting on the sidelines for the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years since technology has made it impossible for us to remain anonymous?
There are...
You know, we've got retina scans, we've got fingerprints, we've got facial recognition. You can't pretend to be someone like you could 100 years ago and then disappear, pretend to die, just go off, go 3 towns over, and then, you know, be someone else. You know, then maybe 50, 60 years ago, you had to go across the pond, you had to go thousands of miles away. Now you can't go anywhere on Earth and not be noticed if you become well known. And so what would these very powerful people who have been sitting on the sidelines, what would they do, and how would they feel about our modern society that threatens their existence?
Interesting. It's almost like a modern version of like Tuck Everlasting.
Right,
thing.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so what, like, because they're threatened, what would they do? And that's what the greater battle for forever is. That's the title of the series. The greater battle for forever is whose side are you on? You know? And we're kind of stuck in the middle.
Are the bad guys good guys? Are the good guys bad guys? And Alexander has sort of been sheltered from a lot of the other Eternals most of his life. So he's discovering more about the world of who they really are, just as we are. So it's kind of got a Jason Bourne sensibility to it in that he's very skilled, but doesn't really know every part of his ancestry, his backstory.
And he's also funny, and there's a lot of snark, and you know it's good. I mean, there's times that aren't fun, but one of the great things about having Wil Wheaton is Will can do that funny, snarky, sarcastic.
Yeah, sarcastic.
The sarcastic thing, and still give you a moment where you can still give that moment where he can give action, he can give pathos. So it's really fun to listen to.
And he's so good with his pacing.
That's good.
He really gets it. He gets the minutia and the little detail and wonderful little pieces of information that Edward, who's traditionally a screenwriter, gets to put in the novels, and then the action and the fast pace and the everything. He was really a great choice to be a 1,500-year-old trapped in the mind and body of a 15-year-old. It was like it was a kind of a no-brainer. We're just honestly over the moon and pinching ourselves all the time that he said yes, because there's only how many authors has he done even one book for?
He's done 35 books total, so I can't tell you exactly, and some of those are multicast, but it's probably like 6 or 7, and I think I'm the 7th person he's done more than one book for.
Wow.
So,
and that includes John Scalzi and Mark Twain.
And Ernie Klein, Cory Doctorow.
Some of the best, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Wil Wheaton has a lot of practice. I mean, he's also dungeon master in his own Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And he seems like a 1,500-year-old man in a 15-year-old body anyway.
I think that's part of it,
Don't
right?
you think?
I agree, and I think what's cool is that like anything, he's not probably right for every book, but he was right for this book, this genre, and I love I love what he did. Like, it was so much fun to hear. I was saying this to other people last night at the party. The first 5 paragraphs of the book, when I heard him do the first 5 paragraphs, I was like, oh, I'm so glad. Oh, this is so great. Because it just set the stage for everything. It was great.
Wow. So how did you manage to get him in the first place? And was he on speed dial or roller coaster? Or did you just discover him at a party?
Yeah,
that would be lovely, but that actually was not it.
He and I have played board games forever. No, I had listened to Ready Player One, Ernie Klein's Ready Player One, and John Scalzi's Red Shirts. I've listened to everything Will has done since, but those were the first books. And Ready Player One has got a lot of action, a lot of things going on, and Red Shirts, which some people know, some people don't. It's in a Star Trek-ish world, where the red shirts kind of figure out they're the cannon fodder, and they're on a show, and they probably shouldn't be around the top officers when the away team, shore team is being set up, because they're going to be gone, and they're all just. I gotta go over here. I got a stomach ache. And it just had a lot of humor, and Scalzi's great with the humor. And when I heard those two things, I was like, it's got a little of this, it's got a lot of that, and it was just perfect. So I said, this is who I want, and everyone laughed. Of course, like, oh, right, sure, you're gonna get Wil Wheaton.
But as his manager, we used to work together in the 90s. And I took a whole bunch of years off to do politics and came back. He said to me, this is what I want. I listened. Sometimes you really have to listen to the creatives on your team and trust that they know exactly. He had studied, he had so much research in listening to audiobooks and knowing exactly why he was the right choice and his histories of the things that he did. So it was really very specific and targeted. There was no one else on his list. So I'm kind of famous for kicking down doors for him whenever he wants me to. And he had also done the research to find out that the great people at Skyboat Media was the only place that will do recordings at. He loves working with them specifically. And so we reached out to Gabriel DeCure, the director. We reached out to Stefan Rudnicki. We reached out to Vox, who represents him. And we're like, hey guys, back in the day, I was able to set up wonderful projects and work on wonderful projects like Elf, and I know what I'm talking about, and we've got this great new IP that no one's seen yet, but trust us. And we got the book to Skyboat, and they got back to us in 24 hours.
I can't even read my own book in 24 hours.
Like, what the heck? Seriously. And they said, they just ate it. And they said, Will, it's totally in his wheelhouse. Will put in a good word, the agent put in a good word, and the next thing you know, we had Wil Wheaton. We just had to work out scheduling and make sure he was available. And then the fact that he would do a second book for us, so we would be in this second timers club, and we've got a third book to do and a fourth book to do. Beyond blessings on blessings. That's hashtag blessings on blessings.
Yeah, it's really great. And one of the things that working with Lisa, Lisa was my agent, and now she's not an agent anymore, she's my manager. If I have to be careful. Because if I say I want X will be X will many times quickly
weirdly
appear, and it's funny, and so I have to be prepared for it. And one of the things about being prepared for working with talent like Wil Wheaton, as a screenwriter, I've dealt with writing for actors and hearing my words, but when you write a novel, it's different. And one of the great things is to hear, like, when I'm even writing now, when I was writing the second book, I knew the lines that I was giving that, Will would go through and it would be good, but it'd be like, I'm slogging through some data, and he's gonna do his thing, which makes it sound like music, but it's like this piece of information that has to be done. Then I know the ones that I just got goosebumps. I'm gonna get the goosebumps when I hear him do whatever he's gonna do. I don't know what he's gonna do, but I know this line here, he's gonna do something. And it's so much fun to know where that is.
It's really interesting for us to be able to work on projects that we're developing for TV. Maybe we'll be able to, if we do everything right, this will be something that'll be a visual feast for the fans. But for him to be able to develop as a screenwriter, his original format as screenwriting, it is this big. He only has this much window, and he's got to pass it off to a visionary director who's going to bring the director element to make a full package. But when you're writing a novel,
when you're writing a novel, I always feel like screenplays, everybody talks about story and character, and that's because a screenplay is not a complete movie. There's one word that really kind of misses from most conversations with studio executives when you're talking about a script. Some author, writer, directors have this conversation, but the word is vision, right? The vision usually comes from the director. And with a book, you're the screenwriter and the director. That's what you get to do. And so it's been fun to have that dual, I always call scripts to me are haiku. Screenplays writing is like haiku. It's very, very narrow, very well defined. And books, you can go in a lot of different directions. And sometimes you make mistakes doing that, but it's also wonderful to find yourself in places that you never could have taken a film.
And one of my favorite things about this world is that it's not just sci-fi. There's a lot of sci-fi. There's a lot of stories about immortality. There's, in this genre, there's all kinds of stuff. But as Edward did his own research, which he's always been a history buff, you're able to, through these characters, be able to revisit moments in history, real moments in history, from a slightly different perspective. So we know, for instance, that July 4th, we celebrate every year for Independence Day. But July 4th didn't happen on July 4th in the real world. It happened on July 2nd. So that and much less mundane moments in history, flashpoints in history, he's able to visit. And one of the reviews was it's spinach wrapped in candy, and that you're able to go see and I'll read this and I'll go, is that true? And he's like, yeah, that actually happened. And so you learn so much more and get such a different perspective by having this character, not like Forrest Gump, because Forrest Gump was in flashpoints in history, but more of an accident. As an Eternal, you're going to be drawn to where the action is. So as an active participant in those moments and seeing it from that other point of view is so cool.
In book 2, there's actually, I don't want to spoil anything, but in book 2, there's a moment where, our entire understanding of, when we get on a plane, and, from start to finish, the whole history of that is just... Flight is just wrong. And we get to sort of hear the real story. And
also pay homage to the people who were, in many cases, the first inventors of things that have been lost to history. Because history isn't just rewritten by the victors, right? It's rewritten. Even now, you go back, things that happened 30, 40 years ago are being presented like...
We're rewriting it. We rewrite history over and over and over and over again. But with these guys, they get to have a say in some of the rewrites.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, for these eternal characters, is this a mystical thing, or is it going to be more like it's like a genetic type of thing?
I wanted to write something that was magical without magic, and I wanted to write something that was like a superhero story without superhero powers, in a way, and so. It's more scientific based, and we learn through some of these side stories and some of this other stuff that happens in the book. It's very scientific based and very, like an illness, a virus that has mutated, but all based in one of my good friends is an international scientist in viruses. He just happens to be, his son and my son are friends, and we've had these, I've always had this idea, but when he heard about what I was doing, he's Swiss French, and he would just, oh, Ed, you know, and you have to put this, like, you have to, and he would put me in directions where I had never ever thought of looking, and finding, there's like findings and these obscure things that even we've just learned in the last 20 years. So these characters didn't know anything about their past. Like, what's funny about it is that even though Alexander X is learning about his past, these people who have been around for 5,000 years, they thought, some of them, maybe they were magic at one point, because they didn't have the knowledge. We know that it's science now, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
So, you know,
they could have fashioned themselves, people who fashioned themselves as gods
or
Historically.
demigods, or things like that. Demigods, right? Not demagogues, demigods. Yes. We already have enough demigods at the moment, but you know, so it's been interesting for them too. They're learning, and there's a side story called /Bloodborne that's going to be available to any fans who come by the site, battleforforever.com, and you know, show us like, hey, just
post on social media about pictures of the book,
and they'll get access
Kindle
to this novella for free. And this novella talks about the origins, you know, in a different way,
Well,
a different character.
I'm glad we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty detail of
no spoiler alerts.
What was it, the genetic ending, telomeres or something?
Telomeres. We didn't get telomeres. Yeah, we didn't do that.
Excellent. So how many books do you actually have planned, and how many audiobooks is Wil Wheaton signed for?
So we're hoping Wil Wheaton's going to do all of the books. That would be great. At the moment, so it started out as a trilogy, but you know, the story kind of grew. So 4 books is what I'm planning. I want to tell this story in 4 books. There's other side things that we can talk about in this world. This world is larger, but this main through line is 4 books.
4 books, and most likely 4 novellas. And those 4 novellas, after they come out one by one, will eventually be together in an anthology.
Right.
So that's kind of the world. I mean, really, the overall Battle for Forever world, if we grow the way we want it to grow, is like 4 pre-apocalyptic books, 3 maybe.
Wait. Yeah.
All right, never mind. Spoiler! Spoiler! A Chiron going across the street. Spoiler with exclamation points.
You are Tom Holland. You are the Tom Holland of this group. Yes. Nothing happened here.
But right now we're doing 4 books in the section that's called the Battle for Forever series.
Right.
And like we said, like you drop into the MCU universe with Iron Man, you drop into our BFF Nexus with Alexander.
Wow. Now, you started off as a screenwriter.
That's right.
In Hollywood, and I believe it's hard to take that out of you, because eventually you have a vision that you want this into a teleplay or a movie. So, honestly, have you ever thought about converting it into a screenplay yet?
Well, of course, and as a matter of fact, there's already a pilot. You know, I mean, I've already done a lot of the legwork for this, and we feel like we thought maybe a series of movies, but it's really more of to tell this story right. It would probably, the best venue is someplace where you can do 8 episodes, not
13 episodes a season.
Yeah, maybe like 8 to 10 episodes for, you know, in a season for 3 or 4 seasons. But what's really interesting about this is that, you know, the world, there are these characters, and we get to see them. There are some great characters, you know, that are not in the main story, or they're just tangential in the main story, that were famous people in the past. And sometimes I want to know about them, and I want to learn about their world. You know, these aren't the inventors. Regular people are the inventors. New blood has to be where most ideas come from, right? They're just really very good at perfecting and mastering things. So they're the generals. They can be the leaders. but with still the Da Vinci's, Da Vinci is not going to be one of them.
Einstein is not going to be.
It's not going to be an Eternal. You know, because we need new blood. Because even when they have this mastery, they can't help but have their old ideas. One of the side story, Bloodborne, is interesting because it's told from a female point of view that comes into the second book, and she is about 2,000 years old, looks about 20, 21, right?
Yeah.
But she's had to deal with being a woman who's a powerful, badass woman for a long time. She could fit in this world today, but she was way out of place. Just 1960s, 1940s, you know, the 1450s, she was really out of place, you know? And so it's fun to take a look at even social issues. I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get too crazy. I want to speak to the human part of it, but it's really great to delve into these human characters. And like you said, just diversity and, you know, we're used to seeing one set of rules. This world is created by everyone, and Eternals are from every corner of the world.
Great. And just for visualization, who do you think would look like Alexander X?
God, that's tough. That's hard.
Because he's got a little bit of Mediterranean. We do have a really great diverse, we have a really good lookbook we can send you in our deck. So you can get a sense of like, there's a little bit of everything. We represent LGBT in the cast. We have the cheerleader is not, Phoebe's not a white girl, you know? We definitely.
Yeah, right. It's just from vaguely everywhere. It's really hard. So I have images and I have actors when I'm writing that I don't necessarily think about actors' personas.
Yeah.
But I'll take a lookbook and create a character look. And it's hard. There was a Mexican singer actor who unfortunately was a teenage kind of up and coming. I'm blanking on his last name, Edward.
I'm sorry.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah. But unfortunately, he passed away young. He passed away, I think, when he was like 19 or something like that. He was my first person I went, this is a kid that looks like this.
Because if we're casting someone to play a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, when we're ready, that person will have just come to that place, right? It's not like we know, we go back and forth on Elam Kai, you know, I think it's Vin Diesel, he says it's Anthony Bourdain, you know, so we have like a vision, so we really look forward to the casting process. But for the young kids, for the 3 leads, for the 15-year-old, 16-year-olds, we don't know, right? We're open to who they'll be when we're ready to produce.
But I do have a Phoebe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have a Phoebe. Yeah, Naomi Scott.
Yeah.
Like Naomi Scott. Naomi Scott just kind of has that.
She's kind of perfect.
She has that a little bit of everywhere thing in her. You know, yeah. And I think she can still pull that off. You know, and one of the things that's tougher is, you know, for some of these characters, especially the ones that don't age, it'll be really interesting to get the actors, because if we did a 3 or 4 year, you know.
Yeah, you better find those actors that don't age.
That don't age.
Right.
Like Keanu Reeves.
Or shoot with 3 seasons in a relative year. Keanu Reeves and Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're not saying they're eternal.
Yeah,
We're not saying Tom Cruise is an eternal. We're not saying that. We can neither confirm nor deny that they're thousands of years old and just repeating it. But here's the thing, I'm a Trekkie, right? I'm a deep down, love Trekkie. And so I love all things sci-fi. I used to have, when I had my own agency, I had a comic book division, we represented video games. So there's no question in my mind that the world is going to take advantage of some of the best cameos. We're gonna get some of the best people that people know, faces that we know. We have if Will wants it when it comes time. I have no spoiler alert, but there's a great role for Will. So we know that we want to put in people that every time a door opens, every time you go around the corner, you go, oh, there's like a little like for all the fans, like the literally whoever we can get that are icons in the world that fit perfectly. They'll be their own little Easter eggs for the fans.
Wow.
Because the point is, it's kind of that's how these people are. It's the metaphor for what these people are. They are famous people in the past, even if we don't know who they are now.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's the metaphor for it.
And bring some voiceover actors who are famous from video games, voiceover actors who are famous from playing sci-fi iconic characters that the fans know, but maybe not everybody knows their faces. Those are great too, because you give them, you know, just rising tide lift all boats, right?
Right. It seems like there's endless possibilities.
Right.
That's terrific. Well, anyways, before I let you go, let's go ahead and pitch out where we could get your books, where we could get your audiobooks, and how do we even contact you, Loving as fans?
So Edward is at Edard Savio on Instagram and on Twitter. On Instagram we're also Battle for Forever. The website, which is the best place to sign up, which is battleforforever.com. You can sign up for bonus content. You'll find out when new things and lost chapters that are dropped for the fan base are out there. You'll find out if we're at any cons, if Eternals are tattooing people in different places. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, we're just gonna flash tattoo people around the world.
And the first book is we're going to tattoo everybody. You're going to be Paracletes whether you want it or not. And also we have what was I going to say?
Don't know, but so and that's also a good place. Like battleforforever.com is a great place. Like we have the links, but if they want to go, it's at Amazon. It's at stores.
Thank you.
It's on Audible.
The first book is Alexander X, which is what I was going to say, and the second book is Ancient Among Us. There's no other Alexander X's. We haven't seen any Ancient Among Us, so we should be really easy to find, especially because Wil Wheaton narrated both of those books.
Yeah, and and they can, you know, if they pick up the book and they actually go to the end, they can find out how to contact me even more personally. Just you know, but I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Edard Savio, like she said.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you very much for speaking with me. This is a very interesting project.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, I think
Thank
we
you
all
for your
want to
time.
live a little longer, and so I think we all would want to figure out what's going on.
Oh no.
Hashtag time will tell.
Yeah. If you live 1,500 years, you probably write a 3,000 book saga.
Yeah, you don't know that I haven't already.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetheart.